EPSL, welcome back to another episode of the pod. A lot has happened. It's been a pretty historic year. This is going to be our mid-season recap episode, so we're going to go through some contenders, pretenders, and then maybe a little bit of a bonus on the back end. But I'm in here with Drones. We're going to be going through some of the best teams, some of the worst teams, and some of the teams that are on the bubble. So, Drones, happy to be in the booth with you, man. How are you doing? There you go. Ooh. Let me check. All right, there we go. My bad.
All good. Okay.
Apologies. Okay, anyways, quick recap. Drones is in the building with us, and now you can hear him. But yeah, we're going to be going through some standings here. We're going to start by conference, and this is the conference that you're most familiar with. Drones, why don't you take us through the NFC a little bit, or at least what you're seeing?
Absolutely. First, I want to say, it's been a long season so far. I want to say to all teams, if you're feeling a little bit down, just know it can't get much worse than how you are feeling about the Buford Wolves right now. As we're sitting here in this bye week, I've been contemplating many things, many decisions, but I'm happy with the team we have. But now to get on to a bit of some lighter things and happier side, most specifically, I want to talk about how great the Centennial Huskies have been this season with an MVP candidate right now with the quarterback in Blackwell. An amazing roster. Their defense looks stout. Their offense looks amazing day in and day out. And then I'll also get into another team that's in their same division, the Northwestern Bulls, a team that we clowned the entire year last year.
I know. Kind of a surprise, man.
Yeah, it's been a big turnaround for that team. Ivan West and De La Hoya and Phonem, a lot of those guys have really turned that team around offensively. We played them, and they played incredible. It's night and day from what it looked like last year with the San Marcos team.
Yeah.
And then,
I know the
sorry.
I just really quickly the Husky Centennial and San Bruno as well. Some of the best defenses in the league, and we haven't seen a lot of defense at all. So I think that's important to note as well. I mean, Centennial, great offense, but also top-ranking defense, which is pretty rare this season, it seems like.
Yeah, and like you couldn't mention any better. Those teams both have very strong defensive presence. Especially, I feel like Centennial has shown it in every game. San Bruno, I know they've had some iffy games. I know they've had a lot of CPU games. They're starting to see the more tests of the users now, where the defense is really getting put to the test. But yeah, both teams have been very incredible. Along with San Bruno, you also have Bishop Gorman, who has an amazing running back. I mean, they're sitting at the top of their division. It's top of the NFC in general. Same record as Centennial, but just a little bit higher. They have an amazing running back right now, and Akers has played amazing at that quarterback position. The team has been phenomenal. It's not a team that we thought was going to be great with all the young players coming in, and they've shown up day in and day out, especially since the departure of Shaw. We did not think this team would be this, and they've shown otherwise. So very big kudos to that team.
I know a lot of young players contributing. You got Bishop Gorman, you got Akers, and then you got St. Joseph, who also sitting at 6-2, who also has a freshman quarterback.
Austin Green, amazing.
Austin Green, thank you. West in his second year. So I mean, you go down the list of these top teams. A lot of young players contributing really early, like you talked about Brady, the Bishop Gorman running back, being a big reason why they're 7-1 right now. And I think that's a surprising team right up there with Northwestern. So maybe, at least for me in the NFC, surprises, Bishop Gorman and Northwestern. Really impressed with what they've been able to do to this point in the season. What about you? Surprises?
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't know
think
if
we can
Buford
say
will
any better.
be on that list.
No, yeah, no. I would say Buford's a surprise in the other sense. If you're a
Me as
Buford
well.
Wolf team, I think
Yeah.
you expected a little bit better with the incoming team with Nichkov and Hart, who hasn't shown up the best. Drones hasn't played his best. But if you want to be thankful in the spirit of thanks, you can be thankful for the running back Caleb Blackheart, who has shown out day in and day
Yeah.
out. He's a top 3 running back in
One
this
of the
league.
best in the league.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Right now,
I think the thing that surprises me about Buford the most is just the fact that, I mean, you guys have played very well against teams, and then it's just the bipolar nature of it, you know? I mean, you either look really, really good or just abysmally bad, and it's hard to, especially like being at the midpoint in the season, to be like, what's the problem? You know, we got to fix something. But when you're, good against good teams and then bad against bad teams, like, what's your mindset, I guess, like in fixing that moving forward?
I will say it's going to be great to have. We just added a new D tackle, which I think will beef up this defensive line that hasn't had a big spark. For me personally, I've tried many different playbooks, many different game plans, many different everything to try to turn this team around. But, sitting at 4-4, it could definitely be worse. The playoffs are definitely not out of reach. So, hopefully we can kick off this next week, week 10, with a big win and just continue on after that.
Yeah. So, I mean, division leaders in the NFC, like we talked about, it'll be interesting to see how this race plays out. And I know you're limited on time, so we won't get too far into the playoff picture, but Centennial and Northwestern in the same division.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously you guys are a few games back from St. Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
The Bishop Gorman is in a division of absolute bottom feeders.
Yeah.
So they've pretty much got maybe the 1 seed. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But then we also have San Bruno and Folsom.
Yeah,
who
no,
we
it's
haven't
something to
really
talk about.
talked a whole lot about. But I mean, going through these races here, I guess we'll start in the West. San Bruno and Folsom. Who do you like? Why do you like them?
I like Folsom a little bit more. San Bruno, like I said, is getting tested. I think they've played well in the games, but I mean, when they played us, they obviously didn't play their best game. I like the experience and the veteran leadership that Folsom has a little bit more than I like San Bruno. I love Matt Ice, and I think he's an amazing quarterback, but I think this season you've seen him take a bit of a step back in this offense. And I think it's shown in the big times where he's needed to step up and make those throws. Sometimes he's unable. And like I said, I just think it's going to be tough. They've had a luxury, unlike Buford, of playing a lot of CPU teams, not the gauntlet of users like what Buford has. But I think
that's a tough schedule for the Wolves, man.
I just think when it comes playoff time, unfortunately, I don't know if they can rely on Hank Hill's running ability to save them in the playoffs.
Now, I got to say I agree, especially to your point with Ice. I think since his MVP season, we've kind of seen regression year over year almost, it feels like. I mean, ended the year strong last year, but Folsom is one of those teams, man, that I think when you expect them to be so good because of that 15-1 season.
Yep.
Or whatever it was, maybe 16-0. I apologize to Folsom fans. But you expect them to be so good that when they lose a game, I feel like it's really easy to write them off and be like, oh, well, they're not as good as they used to be, so, and whatever, we'll forget about the Folsom Bulldogs. But you can't, man. I mean, they're tied for the lead in this division, and I agree with you. I do think that Folsom's the more complete team, roster-wise, top to bottom. I would give the edge to Folsom as well. Going on to the East, that's Bishop Gorman's division. We're not even going to cover that too much. How do you feel about St. Joseph? What do you guys need to do to get back in this race? Obviously, just a few games back, you're going to need some teams to beat St. Joseph, but do you think it's possible to be in contention for the South?
Absolutely. But maybe that's just because it's my team. I've seen St. Joseph look like an amazing team, but I've also seen St. Joseph look like, oh, they are beatable. There's been times, multiple times, even games they've won, where I'm like, oh, wow, well, maybe it's not all, cupcakes and rainbows over there sometimes. We've seen a little bit of some inaccuracies. Obviously, he's a freshman quarterback in Austin Green, but I do think the next time we play them that we can, play a little bit better. I think we got bamboozled by the rushing ability of King Duckworth, and Austin Green made some amazing throws. But I don't think it's out of the race for us to get back into it. We're only 2 games behind them. I can see them taking a couple more losses. I think we just have to be strong in our user games.
Just got to put a streak together, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then this is the interesting one to me, at least on paper. Centennial and Northwestern. Obviously, it's hard to keep doubting Northwestern at this point. I think especially after, the way that they lost to Centennial, a lot of people were, all out on the Bulls. But they've bounced back since that game. And I want to get your perspective on it, knowing the NFC like you do.
Yeah, just to wrap this up for me, I would say that I would take Centennial. Centennial has played like the best team in the league in almost every game they played, especially except for the one they lost. Obviously, they didn't look that great. Yeah. But I just think when it comes to the most complete team, this team looks like it is built for the playoffs. They've played with sheer dominance, like you just said. I mean, we watched them on EPSL After Dark absolutely manhandled the Northwestern Bulls, and I think that
was week 2, I think.
Yeah, it was really early on, and I think I just don't see Northwestern being able to beat this team. So I do think they make the playoffs. Obviously, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to do enough to be able to leapfrog Centennial. The Huskies are just unstoppable.
Unstoppable, he says. Yeah, no, I do agree. I got to give the edge to Centennial, and I know you got to get rolling. So I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Of course, absolutely happy to be here.
Walking me through the NFC, and good luck in the rest of the season.
You as well. I know
you guys are still in
rough. Yeah,
I know.
We'll see.
It's tough.
Look, we'll keep wishing on our stars and keep handing the ball off to Caleb Blackheart and hope things go our way. So we'll see.
Hey, that's all you can do, man. Yeah. Thank you for being on.
Absolutely. See you. Thank you, guys.
We're going to head on over to the AFC as well. Taking a look at standings at a glance. We've got Cedar Creek, St. John Bosco, both sitting at a comfortable 7-1. Well, St. John Bosco 7-1-1. Just a tie away from being tied for the lead of the conference. And then the Mater Dei Monarchs pretty comfortably in this, 6-2 spot, but we also have Ramona, IMG, who Mater Dei just played. So really quick, we're going to go division by division. You also have St. Francis at a surprising 4-5. De La Salle really struggling at 3-4, which I think a lot of people this will come as a shock. Because you had Shaw go over there in the offseason, Daniels left for Florida, and I think a lot of people expected that De La Salle would just kind of pick up where they left off in being a playoff team the past couple years. And that's kind of in question at the moment. They're coming off of a loss. Their point differential is negative, and when it's good, it's okay, and when it's bad, it's really bad for De La Salle. St. Francis, I would have to take a look at their schedule, but we're going to go division by division here really quick, just to kind of break this down. Now, obviously, the benefit for De La Salle and St. Francis both is that their division is terrible. They've got a 2-5 Thompson team, a 1-7 East St. Louis team, who I'm not going to lie to you, East St. Louis might be underrated a little bit. They've lost a lot of close games, but the fact is they've lost 6 straight. So getting back to De La Salle and St. Francis with a freshman quarterback. With having a freshman quarterback in this league, you're going to have some ups and downs. I think that's what you're seeing with St. Francis at the moment, and I don't think it's cause for concern long term. Now, Reese, I think will get things figured out. He is just kind of being put into a new system, and you got to give him some time. As for De La Salle, sitting at 3-4-1, obviously you're a game and a half back. Still plenty of games left to be played, but I think the bigger problem when I look at this division is that will either of these teams pose a threat in the playoffs in such a loaded conference? This conference has talent in every division. Obviously, there's talent on every team, but I think there's some, if the threat to Centennial, like Drones and I were talking about earlier, obviously Centennial is appearing to be the big dog. I do know they're tied with Bishop Gorman, so they could not even end up being the number 1 seed, but don't want to get ahead of myself. I think if there is a threat to Centennial, it's going to come from the AFC, and it's going to come in the form of one of these AFC teams that is just battling through a user schedule. Heading over to the south, we've got Cedar Creek, aforementioned, sitting tied at the top of the conference at 7-1, and then right below them, the Ramona Rams. And what I like about both of these teams is the senior leadership, but also the pedigree. I mean, Cedar Creek is a championship caliber team. They have been for a long time. They're used to making deep playoff runs. They're used to making championship runs. And on Ramona's side, they're coming off of a pretty successful stretch of time. Obviously, if you go back a few years, things were looking a little questionable, but they had at that time a freshman quarterback of their own in Drones, who ended up transferring over to Buford after having his best season with the Rams. And then they get the defending MVP, Prust, at quarterback. So both of these teams have senior leadership, and both of these teams have looked really, really good. I do think that when we're talking about threats to make a championship run, I certainly think that, at least in the AFC, Cedar Creek and Ramona are both in that conversation. I would be interested to see how the division shakes out, because you also have a 5-3 Eagles team down here who's winning some games. So it'll be interesting to see if this South Division ends up sending 3 teams to the playoffs in lieu of maybe one of these, the second-ranked North team in either De La Salle or St. Francis. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, at midseason, there's still a lot that can change, but really impressed with what Cedar Creek and Ramona have both done to this point in the year. Moving on to the East, we were talking about St. John Bosco a little bit. They're running back, and it has seemed like a year for running backs, because you've got a couple of the best backs in the league in this division. Bosco at 7-1-1, Mater Dei at 6-2. Now, the interesting thing about the East is how this tie is going to affect things moving forward, especially if Mater Dei and St. John Bosco end up with the same record. But again, that's a question for another time. What I do want to say about St. John Bosco is we talked a lot about the turnaround that they had last year. I think a lot of people forget that this was a 2 seed in the playoffs. St. John Bosco has done such a phenomenal job over the past 3 years of turning themselves into a contender, and a lot of that credit goes to Newton. I know we shouted him out on the podcast last year quite a bit. I'm going to do it again here, because he's got his team at 7-1-1 to this point in the year. And honestly, as much as the tie might look funky, you can't do much better through 9 games. And they've got to be happy with what they've done. Obviously, winning the first matchup against their division rival, Mater Dei, is a big win, and it could be a big win down the stretch. Now, for Mater Dei, as of right now, statistically, they have the best running back in the league in Drew Berry, and I think, obviously, I am biased, but I do believe he needs to be in MVP conversations, because what he's doing to teams, what we saw him do last week to Belleville, what he did this week against IMG, I just think you cannot underestimate the power of a good running back. And I do want to give Bosco credit for that as well, because Seamus has had a phenomenal season. He had an incredible freshman year as a freshman offensive player of the year. So it's hard to, especially with how we've seen running backs having success, it's hard not to look at these teams and judge them by their running backs, which is weird because we're so used to judging by quarterbacks. But the way that running backs have been playing this year, I mean, it's you've got to account for the best running backs in the league. And right now, credit to Buford and Drones, it's Barry, Blackheart, Sheamus, and Brady. Obviously, there's a bunch of other good ones. Duckworth as well is in there. Duckworth, I probably should move up on that list, but obviously not a complete list, so don't take that at face value. Anyway, we're going off on a tangent here, getting out of the East. It'll be interesting to see how this plays. Key factors, like we talked about earlier, is going to be the tie and how that affects seeding moving forward. But really impressed with St. John Bosco, Mater Dei. I'll touch quickly on them because I've wasted a lot of time in the East, but really good offense, defense that sometimes doesn't get off the bus. Moving on to the West, we got IMG and IMG. It's really IMG's division to lose. Now, this is what I'm talking about, though. Where things get hairy is when these other teams in the division start to go 5-3 or 5-4. It becomes really dangerous. You can't drop a game. We just saw IMG get absolutely body bagged at home. So now they're 6-3. Obviously, to that point in the year, though, they had done some really impressive things. This isn't a team, and they got a tough draw at home last week. So I wouldn't write them off. I think IMG is going to be just fine. Remember, they started the season as one of few undefeated teams in this league. So I think the more interesting thing is going to be what happens to Sarah and Pickerington down this stretch. If Sarah and Pickerington can stack some wins together and maybe threaten IMG for this division, we could see a very interesting shakeup towards the end of the year. But this is another case, sort of like Liberty, where you have, these teams that are nipping right at your heels, and you just can't afford to slip up. Sarah 1 game back, Pickerington a game and a half back. So we'll see how the West plays out. I think it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, IMG's division to lose. But that is going to conclude our mid-season recap. I did want to go through players, but we'll probably turn that into a separate episode just for the sake of episode length. And obviously, it's too early to get into an MVP conversation, but I certainly think there are some guys that stand out. Now, everything that happens at the beginning of the season, you do have to take with a grain of salt. Now, I do want to take a look really quick at the best team stats in the league, because I think these are important. Now, I don't think these tell the whole story, because obviously it depends on who you're playing, and it depends on situations. I get that. But over a sample size of 8 to 9 games, I think it's important to take a look at who is separating themselves, because that is going to determine, at least in my mind, with some relative accuracy, playoff outcomes. So Mater Dei actually the top scoring offense after this week, and they're pretty comfortably the top scoring offense. I know they started in the top 5 earlier this year. As things have gone on, this offense has been really, really consistent. It has been an offense that can play with anybody, can score on anybody, obviously. We saw them put up 51 against IMG last week. So I think it's great. I think it's great to have a good offense. It's great to have weapons that can score against anyone. But I also think that, especially with the way that this year has gone, defense is a little bit more valuable in my mind. Obviously, any of those claims can be debated, but right behind them, we've talked a lot about the Centennial Huskies and what an amazing job they have done this year. I think they're going to continue to get it done. They're in contention for that 1 seed in the NFC. 7-1 at the moment, scoring just under 42 points a game. And this is also an offense with Blackwell that And remember, I think a lot of people forget this too. Blackwell came up a few votes short of an MVP last year. So is this the year that he gets it? I don't know. That's a storyline to follow. Certainly his offense has been humming. There's a few teams actually hanging out right around 41.8 points per game. And I think the one thing that I notice, at least about the teams up here, the teams in the top 5, all of them are very running back dominant. And we touched on how important running backs have been this year earlier. This is another example of how important running backs have been to offenses this year. You've got Folsom with Marcella, an offensive player of the year in his trophy case from a year ago. Bishop Gorman with Brady in the backfield, who's been phenomenal for them as a freshman. Obviously Duckworth, one of the best in the league. And then I do think Centennial is a little bit more balanced pass-wise. Obviously very balanced, passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns perfectly equal to back up that point. But and then you also have Drew Berry, who is statistically the best running back in the league at this point in the season. So what interests me about these teams is all of them have a strong running game first and foremost. They want to run to set up the pass, and I think you see that in a lot of teams that the most successful teams in the league are doing that, and it's working. Just below them, we've got Ramona, St. John Bosco, Northwestern, and these teams are Cedar Creek and Buford. All of these teams are over 30 points a game. Obviously, that's an amazing mark. I think it says a lot about how successful offenses have been this year, that you can be over 30 points a game and not be in the top 5, or if you're Ramona, you can be 34 points a game and not be in the top 5. It says a lot about how much success offenses have been having to this point in the year. And you know, credit to Buford being right there with Cedar Creek. I mean, Cedar Creek is one of the best teams in the AFC record-wise. Buford right there with them in points per game. Northwestern, we talked about how surprising they've been. St. John Bosco, just more than anything I would say is consistent. I wouldn't say their offense blows you away, but they're consistently going to be up in the mid-20s, low 30s. And then going down a little bit further, we'll talk about San Bruno. We touched on Matty Ice and you know, maybe how he hasn't been quite as productive as we thought he would be. St. Francis and IMG hanging out down just under 30 points per game as well. Not a bad mark, honestly. It's not bad to be putting up 29 points a game. I just think that with how prolific offenses have been, it stands out as, now when you start getting down here, this is problem territory. If you've got teams putting up 43 points a game and you're only managing 29, I think there's some reevaluation that has to happen. De La Salle just under 30 as well. Moving on to the defensive side of things, and I think this is where San Bruno really, really shines to me, because there are not many defenses in this league that have allowed under 200 points per game. Obviously, an example of this is the next closest user team is Centennial at just under, and I made 2 points under at 198. San Bruno is almost 30 clear. They are 30 points clear of that 200-point threshold that every other team, user team, has gone over to this point in the season. So I think if there is hope for a deep playoff run from San Bruno, and I do believe there is, it's going to come from this defense. And I can't tell you how important I think defense is going to be to each one of these teams that is looking to make a postseason run. We talked about how amazing offenses have been and how many points are going on the board, and that's great. But if you are the one team in the league, you're one of maybe two. I'll throw Centennial in there. If you're the one of two teams in the league that can get stops and limit points, you're going to make a run. How many times have we seen with the Legion of Boom, with the Denver defense in 2015 against Cam Newton's MVP year, How many times have we seen that defense wins championships? And I just think San Bruno, maybe a sleeping giant, as long as this defense keeps playing the way that they have been. Keep your eyes on San Bruno. Just 169 points allowed per game. And, they're not leading the league in any statistical categories. But to me, and this is just my view, the most important statistical category for your defense is points allowed. It is the most important. Because we can talk about sacks and interceptions and how they change a game, but at the end of the day, your defense is designed to not give up points. San Bruno has a defense that's doing that. Centennial also has a defense that's doing that. Slightly higher points per game given up, but I do think that their offense skews that a little bit because sometimes, this is again, maybe I'm glazing Centennial a little bit too much, but sometimes they score so quickly that the team that they're playing ends up getting more possessions as a result of how dynamic their offense has been. That'll be the last thing I say that glazes Centennial. Obviously, every team in this league is beatable. It just takes one bad game. I'm not trying to make them seem bulletproof or anything, but right along with them, Ramona. And remember, Ramona is just a game back behind Cedar Creek and has a better defense than people give them credit for. Ramona has done a really good job this year, I believe. Well, they're just a few shy of leading the league in sacks, but they've done a really good job of getting after the quarterback at a higher clip than a lot of these other user teams. They've been really, really good at generating pressure, and I think in a largely pass-first league, I know we've talked a lot about running backs, but in a largely pass-first league, that's a crucial ability to have. And then, like we talked about, the most important statistical category, points allowed, just at the same points allowed as Centennial. So right under the 200-point mark. Those are the only 3 user teams in the league to be halfway through the season and allow less than 200 points, which is a staggering number for offensive production. Going on down the list, I know this is taking a little bit more time than I thought. Next closest, we've got St. Joseph, defensively allowing 225 points per game. Right behind them, Northwestern at 226. And then Folsom in that kind of range as well. Now, this is where it starts getting into scary hours down here. St. John Bosco and Bishop Gorman, I would put them both at middle of the pack. But as you start to get down here, we've got Cedar Creek, De La Salle, IMG, Buford, and Mater Dei. These teams down here have got a defensive problem. And this is going to be the most important thing for them to clean up going forward, because halfway through the year, if you're down here at 251 total points allowed on the season, Buford also at 251. I mean, I would honestly start it right here, which I guess you could include. Well, no, we'll say that's middle of the pack. I would start it right here. Cedar Creek, De La Salle, IMG, Buford, and Mater Dei. These defenses need to turn things around if you are going to make a playoff run. They need to limit the damage, because what is one thing that we look at least with Mater Dei? How good is the offense? We talked about that. Top scoring offense in the league halfway through the season. It's phenomenal. But the defense is atrocious. You can score 43 points a game, but if you give up 38 or 40 points a game, it makes that offense look a lot less impressive, and it makes the defense look really, really bad. Needs to be fixed moving forward for Mater Dei, especially in user matchups against good competition. Buford, same story. And I mean, I know we touched on them a little bit, but Blackheart, amazing running back statistically, second best in the league. Amazing. But the defense lets them down. It happens. It's happened to Mater Dei. It's happened to Buford. It's certainly happened to IMG. And these teams as well, Cedar Creek, if they're playing for a 1 seed, they should not be down here. They should not be down here with these teams that have struggled enormously on defense. So Cedar Creek is going to be playing for a 1 seed, and I do think that they can. The defense needs to tighten up a little bit. Obviously, the 7 interceptions is pretty promising. Stands out to me as some of the best in the league. Yeah, so just limit the points. Just limit the points. You got 7 interceptions. You're among the league leaders in interceptions, which is awesome. You're over 20 sacks on halfway through the year. Awesome. Just limit the points. All right. I've been getting a little bit too far down the rabbit hole, but that is our mid-season recap. We went over each one of the conferences, divisions, and a little bit into some team statistics. Keep an eye out for the next episode because we'll talk a little bit more about the players, who's standing out, who's disappointing. And we'll look forward to next time. It's been an honor. It's been an honor hosting this podcast this week. Look out for the next one. I will see you guys in the next one, hopefully. I plan to be in the next one. But until then, keep an eye on your teams.